Hi everybody, Dan Illman here taking a look at the feature race on opening day of the Woodbine 2020 racing meet. Great to see racing back at Woodbine. We've got a nice 20-cent late pick 4 sequence. Key race of the sequence, race number 9. Let's take a look at the field. We're going 7.5 furlongs, 2 turns on the inner turf course, and it's a really salty allowance race for fillies and mares. Very talented horses in this race. You've got Get Explicit coming up from South Florida, where she's been campaigning against some salty graded stakes horses. Also Amalfi Coast, who just really proved her mettle in races on turf, on synthetic, sprinting, going long, and a horse with a big future here in 2020. Those are the two big names. They are far from the only horses in this field with a chance. Let's begin by taking a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector and the number 2, Super Escape for trainer Michael Trombetta. She's expected to make the early lead. She's got pace and going 7.5 on the inner turf. I think she should be able to clear the 1 Nantucket Red and make the running. And we'll find out how good Super Escape is. If she can back down these fractions to her liking, perhaps she can sprint home, catching some of these others off layoffs as well. Nantucket Red is the number 1, and Nantucket Red's the kind of horse who was just purchased for $35,000 at the Keeneland January Racing Age sale. Might be a nice bargain for a mare that's been pretty consistent throughout her career. Now, she last ran at Presque Isle Downs back in October, and it was a race that was pretty strong. The third place finisher, Theodora B, came back to run third in the Grade 3 Maple Leaf at Woodbine with a 78 buyer, and then was second in the Forever Together Stakes at Aqueduct with a 91 buyer. So Nantucket Red has kept some good competition. That being said, she's facing a very good field. She's coming off of a lengthy layoff, and she might be slightly better on a synthetic surface. The 2 is Super Escape, and Super Escape's coming out of a turf race at Gulfstream Park late in December, and I think the situation was really against her from a pace standpoint. She pushed a very fast pace. She paid the price. She is a stakes winner on dirt and synthetic. We'll find out if she is as good on turf. She's only 1 for 7 on turf, but she might have an easier time of it on the lead this time around. The horse that finished 4th in that most recent start, the Tropical Park Oaks, came back to run 3rd in the South Beach Stakes with an 88 buyer. So she faced decent competition and might get a better pace situation in here. She's going to be facing older horses. This is her first start as a 4-year-old. Get Explicit is the number 3. Get Explicit turning back to 7.5 furlongs. It will be interesting to see if 7.5 is a bit short for her. She has not run a distance less than a mile since way back in her 3rd lifetime start in 2017, where she went a 1-turn 7 furlongs over the E.P. Taylor turf course. And guess what? She won that day. So she is capable sprinting, although at this point in her career, I wonder if she's slightly better going longer. 2 starts back at Tampa Bay Downs in the Grade 2 Hillsborough. I thought she had a pretty good trip saving ground. She had to wait a little bit turning into the stretch. She just wasn't as good as Starship Jubilee, who is Grade 1 class. Last time out in the Orchid Stakes, I didn't really love the Orchid as a race, but Mean Mary is a horse with a lot of upside potential, and she looked good winning that race. Get Explicit is a multiple Grade 2 placed runner on the turf. We'll see how she does turning back to 7.5 furlongs. My concern is she might be outrun a little bit in the early portion and could have too much to do when the field turns for home. Stop Who's That is the number 4. Stop Who's That's in tough. Her last race was for a $40,000 tag over the synthetic Tapeta surface in November. She kind of didn't fire that day. It was a race where she was off slow and mid-moved, a little bit of an excuse. She was listed as a vet scratch on December 11th, now coming off a layoff, stepping up in class. She's okay on the turf. I think she's better on the synth, and this is a very tough situation for her from a class perspective. Don't sleep on the 5. Red Cabernet, because Red Cabernet is okay on the turf. She last raced in the Bessarabian, where she was defeated by Amalfi Coast. It was a race that did not set up for her at all from a pace standpoint. There really wasn't a lot of speed in that race. Red Cabernet never made a dent. Her races going longer have been okay, but she's also run well at 7 in the past. She's a stakes winner on synthetic, a stakes winner on turf, and if you go back to some of her races, 3 and 4 back, she has shown the ability to get up close to the pace, and that could be key here. I think Emma Jane Wilson's going to try to get this mare into the race early, keep her close, and have her in with a chance turning into the stretch. stretch. Another time is the number 6, trained by Barb Minchell, who, of course, conditions Get Explicit. Another time might have a little bit more upside than Get Explicit. This is only going to be her 9th lifetime start. She won at Tampa Bay Downs 2 starts back off of a lengthy layoff, and she looked okay that day. She got the right setup, a decent pace. It was an in-out trip. I didn't love the way she finished it off, but considering it was off the layoff, I'm willing to give her extra points. She then ran in the Sand Spring Stakes, and I just think she was too close to a hot pace that day against good horses. La Signare, the winner, Zofeli, the runner-up. They came back to run 2-3 in the Grade 3 Mint Julep at Churchill Downs with stereo 91 Beyer speed figures. Expect another time to be taken back off of the pace, a la the race 2 starts back, but her speed figures are light. They pale in comparison to those of the top contenders, including Amalfi Coast, who ran a 91 Beyer as a 3-year-old last time out in the Grade 2 Bessarabian over a synthetic surface. It was a race that didn't have a lot of pace. She saved ground. She got off the rail into the stretch, going 3-4 wide, turning into the lane, and she was just better than those horses. But it's not like she's just a synthetic wonder. Her prior races on turf, very good in the Carotene, very good in the Ontario Damsel. She might need a little bit of pace help up front, and it'll be interesting to see how cranked she is off of the layoff. I'm sure Kevin Attard has big plans for Amalfi Coast this year, and he's not going to want to squeeze the lemon dry first off the layoff in this race. But if she comes back firing, she's probably the best horse. The 8 is Oceans of Love, and her last race, in my opinion, is an utter throwout. Oceans of Love can't stand up on dirt. She's good on synthetic. She's good on turf. They ran her on dirt last time out, and that's not her game. 2 starts back at Woodbine over the Tapeta, going a mile and a 16th. She was able to get to the lead. She controlled the pace. She won in very comfortable fashion, and the prior race on turf was a similar situation, going a mile and a 16th on the E.P. Taylor. I think Patrick Husbands is going to get aggressive with Oceans of Love. I think he's going to get her into a good contending position, if not hustle her outright to the early lead. She has some upside potential. I do wonder if she's slightly better on the Tapeta. Alice's War is the number 9. Alice's War's banked over $250,000 the hard way. You can't argue with that. This is her 46th lifetime start. She was in for a 37.5 tag last time out. She didn't run very well over a synthetic surface. She's better on turf, and the runner-up in the last race did come back to hit the board in the next 3, but with Beyers of only 80, 81, and 81 respectively. Alice's War perhaps up against it from a class standpoint. Lunar Gardens, another horse that I think is just getting started. Sprinting, I'm not sure is really what she wants to do. And 7.5 furlongs really isn't a sprint when it's around 2 turns. It's sort of a middle distance. But Lunar Garden, I think, is at her best, going a mile and a 16th. I think this race is a means to an end. She has shown speed on a synthetic surface in the past. Last time out in the Maple Leaf, they tried to push her a mile and an eighth, and that isn't, I think, what she wants to do. So turning back is okay for her. I'm not sure if all the way back is the way to go, but she does have a little bit of tactical speed and certainly some back class as well. She's stakes placed on a synthetic surface. We take a look at my selections in here. Listen, if Amalfi Coast comes back running, she's going to win this race. She's not a horse that I would single in the pick 4 simply because you don't know how fit she's going to be. Get Explicit, the number 3, seems like a logical alternative, but I would also want to use the 8, Oceans of Love, as a backup. I'm going 7-3-8-2. It's opening day at beautiful Woodbine on Saturday, and race number 9 is an approximate post time of 5:24 Eastern. Best of luck.